If you're not dealing with failure on jobs, you're either extremely lucky, incredibly well prepared, or you're not being honest with yourself. If you're working in professional environments, gear will fail. Exceptions become the rule, and oftentimes you can be left at the 11th hour without a whole lot to show for all the work you've done in the way of an operational show. So if it's an absolute, if we take it as a given that things are going to go wrong, gear fails, things don't work out as planned, what separates professional crews that can continue on through those failures from the crews who allow failures to derail or slow down their entire production? Number one, drop the ego. The most common thing I see happen when something fails with an inexperienced crew is they immediately start playing the blame game. The finger pointing starts, the speculation starts, the anecdotal evidence and stories start flying, and at that point things get very confusing. While a professional crew will often have a bit of debate over an alternate approach or a theory somebody has or a new solution to the problem somebody wants to try, they will not stop trying to work the problem. Placing blame, it's not appropriate at that point to try to do that. It doesn't get you anywhere, so you just simply don't do it. When inexperienced crews start to try to place blame and find out who's at fault and let their egos take over the situation, they lose more valuable time and get even further behind than they were already. And the biggest issue is that you end up with this tension between crew members happening at the exact wrong moment. This is when you need people to be thinking and working at their best to get over a failure and to continue on. And if you're building tension by placing blame and pointing fingers during that time, you're really not going to have a successful show. Number two, identify the failure. While inexperienced crews will start with what ifs and speculation and theory and stories of what happened one time that did or didn't work out, they're simply wasting more time. None of that helps, and it's unfortunate that people will get sidetracked. A professional crew will immediately start to try to work the problem step by step in a methodical and logical fashion. You take your time to do the diagnostic process from the start through to the finish to isolate the fault as quickly as possible. Or you might have a gut feeling about something, and if it's very quick, obviously jump in and test that real quickly if you can. But oftentimes those kind of solutions will end up having you chasing your tail with intermittent problems and generally just waste a lot of time. It's critical to work through a methodical, logical diagnostic process from start to finish, step by step, without skipping any steps. Inexperienced folks will feel like this is a slower approach, but after you've done it long enough, you'll come to realize that you're going to find the right solution a lot quicker. Number three, accept the failure and move on. Whether it was a lapse in judgment, a theory or an approach just gone wrong, or a piece of gear that failed, identify that failure and move on. Get over it and get on with moving to a solution. The best crews that I work with are able to identify failures and things that aren't working and come up with a solution and move in that direction before it cripples them. All too often I see inexperienced crews that when they're having an issue, they don't know when to cut their losses. They'll hang on to a mistake or a poor approach far too long, lose far too much time, and put themselves in a position where they can't execute a solution now because they've simply run out of time. Admitting that an idea was bad or an approach was wrong or a piece of gear just simply isn't up to the task at hand, there's no shame in it. Put your ego aside, identify the issue, and move past it. Come up with a solution and just get on with the show. And that leads to the point that any failure that you experience on a job really is a fantastic opportunity to learn something. By being analytical when this happens and working the problem in a logical, systematic, diagnostic way, you'll be able to understand more of what actually happened and how to avoid that in the future, as opposed to just having anecdotal stories to go off of. It's okay to stop and think about a situation for a moment, come up with a game plan, and then identify what it was about that situation that you didn't know going into it. What failed, what went wrong that you didn't understand beforehand. And once you do that, you can take that information forward with you as experience, and it's valuable experience because it's done critically and it's done in a repeatable fashion. And that's how you come away from failures with real experience. You work your way through the failure in a logical manner so that you come away knowing more than you started out knowing. You come away with a real understanding of what went wrong. Not a guess or a pretty good idea of what went wrong, but actual facts and information that you can take forward and use to avoid problems in the future. If you like the videos on this channel, one of the best ways to support the channel without spending any extra money is to follow the affiliate links in the description below. You don't have to buy those products, but as you shop on those sites, it will help to support the channel a little bit, and it really does help. So thanks again for doing that. It makes a big difference.